Hey friends, Trisha Goyer here, and I am talking homeschool and curriculum today. I'm specifically going to be sharing about Sonlight and the two levels that I use, and a lot of people want to know how I homeschool six kids at the same time, and they're the ages of, my kids are currently ages 8, 9, 11, 14, 16, and 16. So next year we'll be homeschooling between grades 3 and through 10th grade. Oh my goodness, I have two 10th graders next year. And so I'm going to show you the curriculum that I use and then explain Sonlight and how it works. And we have, my table is filled with tons of piles of books that I'll be going through. And Sonlight is a literature-based curriculum, so the language, arts, the history, all of that comes out of real books. So it's not workbooks, it's not an online thing. So I'll be sharing about Sonlight. Now, feel free to leave questions if you have any questions about Sonlight. But first, I wanted to share why Sonlight. So I've been homeschooling for 25 years. I just finished my 25th year this week. So I'm so excited, and I've tried a lot of different things. And what I've discovered over the years is that there's some stuff that's maybe really great material. There's great workbooks, and my older kids did Switched on Schoolhouse, which is online class for years. But there's a few reasons why I wanted to pick Sonlight. First of all, it's a lot of read out louds. So I am spending probably 2 to 3 hours a day reading out loud to my kids, which sounds like a lot, but I love it. I love reading. I love reading out loud. And I was literally squealing as I was pulling some of these books out, which you'll see because we're going to be studying US history, which goes up to World War II. So I feel like I'm enjoying it. And when moms have fun homeschooling, when we're super excited about the books, then the kids get excited too. So I have loved doing it. And when those days come where I just don't feel like homeschooling, I'm tired, it's been a long week, maybe I just got back from traveling, I just have to tell myself, I just have to get up and I have to start reading. And then it makes it all better because I just get to read really good books. And yes, there's math and science, and we're actually doing writing assignments and all that stuff to go with it. But at the start of our day, basically, we're doing a lot of read out loud with all the kids around the table. Also, with Sonlight, because the kids that I'm homeschooling now are adopted kids, I haven't had them since they were babies. So the older girls, we got them 3 years ago. And then the younger kids, they've been around a while, and a list we've had from birth, but I haven't had years and years of them, especially the older girls, sitting on my lap, reading Peter Rabbit or all these sweet little books. And so I want this really to be a bonding time. So all this time of me reading out loud to them, I want them to just know my voice, have this connection. We were just looking at the missionary stories, the YWAM books that we've read. And I do those in addition to the Sonlight curriculum. So every day we do a prayer journal and a missionary story, which is like something I've just added on. But we could sit together and talk about the books that we've read, that we've enjoyed, talk about the different missionaries that we've loved, or the books that we've read during the year. And it's just that, hey, Kristen, it is just that, or Christian, I should say, it is just that time that we have together. So I am going to go over the two different levels. And what I do is I get two levels that are covering the same time in history. So Sonlight is based on a specific time in history. So it's the history, literature, and Bible are all combined together, and all the books are based on one time in history. So I cover the same time. So we did ancient history, then we did middle history. Now we're doing American history this next year coming up. So level D for the younger kids is ages, let's see, 8 through 11, which my kids are actually 8, 9, and 11, so that's perfect. And then the older kids for American history are ages 12 to 16, and I have a 14-year-old and two 16-year-olds. So again, that is perfect. And so what I do, since we're all covering American history, I read some little, I always say little kids books, and then the middle kids books, the olders are out of the house. So I read the two different levels at the same time. Well, I read them aloud to everybody. And so, say one of the read out louds that I'll be reading with the younger kids is Swift Rivers, which is set in 1835. Chris Dahlberg goes to live with his grandfather the day that his mean spirited uncle bars him from his homestead. So I'll be reading this. I read it to everybody around the table. And then the older kids' book, one of their books is Freedom Walkers. And so that maybe one day I'll read a chapter of Swift Rivers, maybe I'll read a chapter of Freedom Walkers. The little kids have books that they read out loud to me or to themselves. And then the older kids have books that they read on their own independently, and then they have work that goes with it. So I'll be able to share everything that they do and then how I combine that. So first of all, Sonlight has these great big binders, and this is the whole lesson plan for the year. I've done years and years of doing my own lesson plans, but I love that everything is in here. You see all the weeks. And one thing I did want to mention ahead of time is because, oops, I just hit my computer. Sorry about that. This is real life. Because I'm reading it loud to all the kids, I'm not able to get through everything. Usually there's 36 weeks in the curriculum, which I always tell people when I speak, don't plan on getting through everything in the year because there's just a lot of material. I'll even skip over assignments. I do a lot of, instead of having them write some assignments, answer questions, I'll have them verbally just tell me the answers. But so even though this is 36 weeks worth of curriculum, I usually plan on getting through like week 28. But then all the books that we didn't get to, those are our summer readers. So my little kids have to read for 20 minutes a day before they get on electronics. And the older kids have to read for 45 minutes a day before they get on electronics. So there's probably about 6 or 7 books, novels that the older kids didn't get to, and then some readers that the younger kids didn't get to. And so that's their summer reading before they get turned on any electronics, tablets or TV or any of those things they have to read. And so we'll go through all the books that we didn't finish during our curriculum. They'll actually get to read during the summer for summer reading. All right, so in the big binder, it has everything broken up by weeks. You can see the little tabs here, and I have a binder for the level D. I have a binder for the level 100, which is the 12 through 16 years old. And then it has at the beginning a list of all the books that we're going to be reading during the year. So here is a list of all the book lists. And then every day when we come in here, it tells us what to do. So the first part that shows up is science. So this will have every day what pages you have to read, what worksheets you have to do for science. And then if you flip the couple pages over, and then it has information for the parents. There's also worksheets, which I have a whole binder I will show you. Here's the answer sheet for the worksheets that go with the science books. And they're not like a science textbook. They're like Usborne books or really cool science books, which you'll see in a minute. But then the worksheets are here. And one set comes with the curriculum that I bought. And then I bought extra worksheets for the kids. So I bought 2 extra sets since I have 3 kids going through the same curriculum. And so there's the science, and then there's also language arts. So for the books that we're reading out loud, there is language arts worksheets too. And so each one will have a binder for 3 little kids, and all their worksheets are in here for the year. So that makes it easy. This is one of them. I ordered 2 more sets, so I'm going to be setting up all their sets for the year. And so the answer sheets to the worksheets are in the big binder. And then, so this is actually the history, Bible, and literature part of it. And it'll tell you each day what they're supposed to be reading and what books I'm reading out loud, what books they're reading. So for example, on the first day, There's some scripture to read, and then the American Indian Prayer Guide. You read one page of that. Pedro's Journal is one of our books that I'm reading out loud to them, and so I read some of that. I'm reading The Secret of the Andes, and then they read chapters 1 and 2 of the book A Lion to Guard Us. And then there's activities that go with each of those. And in here, for the parents, it has extra information, has questions. So as they're reading, I could ask them questions about what they're reading or what we're reading together. So that is how Sonlight is set up. So then what I have, and I will do when we actually get ready to start in August, I will show you. I get a whiteboard, and so I do Monday through Friday. We do have some days that have therapy. My kids, 300 kids actually have dyslexia and go to a speech therapist for therapy. So those days will be lighter, but I just write down every day the things that we're doing for the little kids' work and for the older kids' work, what we're reading out loud, and then their independent word on a whiteboard. And I love whiteboard because then I just wipe it off when we're done. But the funny thing is, though, we've had like neighbor kids come over and like mess with the whiteboard, and my kids are like, "Don't touch mom's whiteboard," because it has my assignments. So I take it out of the teacher's guide and actually write it on the whiteboard. Okay, so the first thing for the younger kids is the Bible section. And so for the Bible, there is scripture, memory, songs. Let's pull over, open this back up to where we were. It has a list of everything. And there is a language arts section with other books that they read and answer and do like copy work and stuff. I don't have those yet, so I'm going to come back. I'll do another video on those, but we're just mainly talking about the history Bible and language for that. Okay, so for the Bible part of it, there's the sing aloud songs. And then this year, because we are studying U.S. history, one of the things is American Indian Prayer Guide, and it has different days you're going to be praying for different tribes, and like this is the Cree, different tribes, and just praying for them. It has information about them, has like legends from them, things we could pray about them, facts about them. The Cherokee, you see there's different days. We're going to be praying every day for these Native American tribes, and which is really cool because even though it's, we're talking about Native Americans history, we can still pray for them now. And then we have parts that they'll be reading in this Discoverer's Bible. So that is the Bible section. And then for the books that we'll be using for science, first of all, for if there's any type of science project in any of these books that the kids will do, all the materials are already sent in a kit. So this kit, I should have opened it every time to see how it opens. This kit comes for the younger grades. I have one for the older grades too, and it has anytime we have an activity that says get beans, get rubber band, get a paper clip. Everything is in here. So masking tape. So I don't have an excuse. I hate that when you're trying to do an activity and you're searching around the house for something that you need. And I did see that we're going to be growing plants this year. So that's super exciting. All right. So the science books that we're going to use are, there's a lot of books. I'll try to go through these quickly. I won't read all the descriptions and everything. But Biology Level 1, it's real life science for kids. See, it just talks about biology, and we're actually going to be growing some things this year. There's also a Discover and Do DVDs, and so they have someone that does an experiment, and then we can do the experiment. That's what all the materials are for. Mysteries and Marvels of Nature. This is an Usborne book, which we always love Usborne books because they are just so fun and so amazing. And like I mentioned, these are the younger kids' books, but when I'm reading out loud, The older kids will be there. Sometimes they're just reading along. Sometimes they're doing maybe independent work while like spelling words or something while they're listening. But they love these books just as much as younger kids do. Um, this looks awesome. The Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution. So that's great. Oh, Allie says, you're making me want to give Sonlight another try. I love it. Like when the books come in, I am so excited. And then the seas, First Encyclopedia of Seas and Oceans. I think, Allie, one of the things why sometimes it can be so overwhelming, and feel free to have, if you want to leave any questions, but one of the things that I do is like sometimes a lot of the written stuff, I'll just have them verbally tell me because I have 6 kids. It's time consuming, and there's stuff that I do make them write, but sometimes if they could just answer the question instead of writing it out, I'll have them do that. And then also I'll just know that, we're going to go through week 28. And then any other books that we don't get done, they could read during the summer. And that just takes the pressure off. So I don't always feel like, oh no, I'm behind, I can't keep up. And there's some weeks, especially in the spring, I travel a lot for homeschooling conferences and I'm taking my kids with us and we get to see stuff and visit while we go. So I count that as homeschooling too. So we're not, sitting down with the books, going through everything. But it is fun because we're out exploring. So Allie says, I tried a couple years ago and got swamped trying to do too many levels. Yes. So I'm doing 6 kids ages 8 to 16. I'm only doing 2 levels. And I'm doing American history, so level D and level 100. Or the 2 levels that I'm doing. So level D are 8 through 11. Level 100 are ages 12 through 16. And so really the books, like it's not just the books for their level that they're learning from. They're learning from both levels put together. So the younger kids are hearing the older kids' books. The older kids are hearing the younger kids' books, but they're learning right along too. I mean, we're going to be studying, biology, and that's going to help the older kids, even though, they're these S4 science books. There's stuff they're going to be learning. So I just feel like by doing it together, reading out loud together, it really, really helps. I will mention too that my older son, who's 25, tutors the big kids the older girls in their algebra and in their science. So in the afternoons, he'll come over and do that. So that kind of helps me too. Yeah, Allie says, I like the way you plan to finish 28 weeks and read the rest of summer reading. Yeah, I'll even show you our little box that we're doing. Hold on. All right, so this is the summer reading box. So you can see here, these are the books that we did not finish. Some of the girls have finished some of these. Some read faster, but these are the ones they're going to be reading this summer for the older girls. This was level H. And then the younger kids, because they go to therapy and have dyslexia, they did a lot of reading there. So they didn't do a lot of the read out louds that we had. So, some of these books are for the younger kids. And then they move into chapter books. We didn't do a lot of these. And so this is going to be summer reading. I just have my little crate here. It sits over here in my dining room. And they know before they get on electronics, they have to get it. So it gives me the pressure like we don't have to finish everything that year. But they're still reading the books and they're still talking about them. Allie says, yeah, next year she has 9, 11, 9, 7, 5, 3, 1 in preschool. Okay, so what I would do, this is just like a one-on-one time with me and Allie. What I would do is I would consider, I don't know if you have your curriculum for next year, but I would consider getting this one, which is level D, so it's ages 8 through 11. So I would consider that for your older kids. And then the 5-year-old can totally listen. And you'll see these books that are going to be reading out loud can totally listen. And then I would get some, just some phonics books. And I have workbooks ordered. So we do Wordly Wise. We have a phonics book that's coming, workbooks that the kids will be doing. I would just have the 5-year-old like listen along with these books and then do workbooks. But so really you can cover the 11, 9, the 7, the 5, like with level D, which is ages 8 through 11, and then get workbooks for the younger kids at their level, because the workbooks or the books that will be kind of the worksheets will be targeted for the 9 and 11-year-old, and then just get little phonics and readers for the younger kids. That's what I would do. So the preschool too. Preschool is just fun. It's just Play-Doh, and don't stress out too much with Play-Doh. But those are my thoughts, Allie. Okay, back to science. So additional science things we're doing is, again, I said we're going to be growing stuff. So we're growing radishes and corn and beans. And then it tells you like how to do the projects. And again, all the things we need for the projects are actually in those boxes. Oh, those were grades. Okay. So, well, that's a lot of kids. You're like me with a whole bunch of kids. Okay, so then this might be perfect what I'm talking about. The 100 series is ages 12 to 16. The D series is 8 to 11. So that covers, the 12-year-old could, if you're doing both at the same time, you would, again, cover everybody with these 2 levels. So you can just watch it, no pressure, to see if it's something you like. So we're doing the science projects, and then we have water. And I'm all about doing stuff together. And I think really, with my older kids, they each have their own curriculum and they're doing their own thing. I've found, because we're doing everything together, it's kind of bonding together with all the kids. So that's super fun. So there's water. It's all about water. And then magic school bus, inside the human body. And then this is fun. This is science, but it's the story of Rachel Carson, and it's called The Silent Spring. And she helped create a movement to ban harmful chemicals. So that's part of the science curriculum. So that's super fun. All right, so now we have all the science here. I covered the Bible. So we're going to go over the books that I will be reading aloud to the kids with the Sonlight curriculum. Okay, so this is the pile of books right here. Hold it up there and I'll go over each one. So Adoniram Judson, we've already read this. We read this like 2 years ago for homeschool. This is something that I just pulled in because we read a YWAM missionary story every morning. So I probably will not read it over again, but I will probably have the kids do like a poster or something, just pulling up facts from his life, and they could all work together so that they can kind of remember about him. He was actually in Burma, and I think one of the things we remember about him, he had like 12 kids and like 9 of them died in Burma, which is like so hard. So they remember Adoniram Judson because of that, but his story is amazing. Okay, other books that we're reading out loud are Swift Rivers, which is again 1835, Winter Danger, which again, this is all about American history. The Journeyman, and these are all books that I've heard of and I never read in school. We read like those books, those reader books that have little short stories with discussion questions or things you had to answer at the end. We didn't read a lot of real books. So Justin Morgan Had a Horse, Carry On, Mr. Bowditch, Tolliver's Secret. Ellen Tolliver is shocked to learn that her grandfather is a Patriot spy. Sounds awesome. Johnny Tremaine, which I've heard about this book forever. Never read it, so super excited about reading it to the kids this year. The Sign of the Beaver, which again, another book I've heard a lot, never read. And you see a lot of these are award-winning books. Newbery Honor book. The Witch of Blackberry Pond, To Walk the World's Rim, and The Secret of the Andes. And I did read this with my older kids and remember loving it, so I'm excited to read that again. And then The Child's Introductory to Poetry, and it has a little CD that goes along, so that'll be fun. And these are just, I love that they're just real books that we could keep on our shelf afterwards, because how fun is this? Tell us about the poet or the artist. Okay, so those are books that I'll be reading out loud. And then these are the books that the kids are going to be reading. And like I mentioned, because of dyslexia, they'll probably be ones that they'll be reading out loud to me because they have a harder time just reading on their own. And we might need to take it slower than the schedule says, just because they do struggle. The 3 younger ones all have dyslexia, just because they struggle. And so the books they'll be reading is A Lion to Guard Us, Pocahontas and the Stranger, and my 8-year-old definitely is not at this reading level, so I'll probably be reading out loud to him, or we'll be sitting around and the older girls can take turns reading and he can listen. Squanto, The Thanksgiving Story, The Courage of Sarah Noble, The Skip Pack School, and Then What Happened, Paul Revere, Phoebe the Spy, The Cabin Faced West. And I mean, these, they, in the book, they'll have them like read a chapter or 2 a day. So it's like 5 pages in chapter 1 in this. The Bears on Hemlock Mountain, Casto, which is a Native American book, which we bought this one. I think some of my older girls have read it, but I'm going to read it with the little kids. Sarah Witcher's Story, Robert Fulton, Boy Craftsman, and Timeo Ditch and the Big Ditch. These are just so cute. Oh, I love books. And Sarah Plain and Tall. So those are the books that I will be reading, or they will be reading to me. And then, so those are kind of they call them the readers, which are, they're the era in history that we're studying, but they are all like novels, historical novels. Then there's actual history books. Let me skip this over. That we'll be doing. Another thing that Sonlight has that I love is they have timeline books. And so for every year, there is the stickers that go with it. And then we fill out the timeline where these people are in history. And I love, this is that they can see what people lived at the same time and where they were in history. So we do the stickers with that. There's American History, Year 1 of 2 is the one we're doing, Level D. And those are more stickers that we have from last year that we never put in. They're in the book. We'll put them in there. Okay, so the history books that go with this are Pedro's Journal, Incas, Aztecs, and the Mayans, The Beginner's Guide to American History from Christopher Columbus to John Sutter, and it's biographies in here of different people. So the people that it has is Christopher Columbus, John Cabot, Ponce de Leon, Sir Walter Raleigh, Captain John Smith, and so then it ties American history through the eyes of people. North American Indians, the Lewis and Clark expedition. Were there, if you were there when we signed the American Constitution. I missed the if you, and I was like, what does this say? The landmark history of the American people. And then look how fun this book looks. The Children's Encyclopedia of American History. And usually with these encyclopedia types books with Sonlight, you don't read the whole thing. And they'll just have you, whatever you're reading about in, say, one of the novels, like this is on a railroad, so they'll just have you read a couple pages. And that is Level D, all except the language arts readers, which I'm still waiting for, and the workbooks, which I haven't gotten yet, like the grammar, phonics type workbooks, spelling workbooks. I haven't gotten those yet, but I wanted to kind of get this video out there in case people are deciding now what type of curriculum they're interested in. I love Sonlight, so love using it with my kids. Okay, so that was Level D, ages 8 through 11, and now I'm going to go over Level 100, ages 12 through 16. Again, the same type of huge binder, and this time they have a student one and a teacher's one, which is great because it has information that students need to know, information I need to know, But what I do typically is I will take the little assignment sheets and photocopy them and put them in a smaller binder for the girls because it's so much easier for them if they're just trying to figure out what books we're reading for the day, which really helps them if they have a plan. They can see what we're going to be doing. And then I have my whiteboard. And some of them like to go ahead, read more than planned and mark it off. I'll just photocopy these pages that have the assignments, and then they can have that in a smaller binder and mark them off. All right, so again, it has everything from the literature, the history, and then I put the science in a separate binder because I mentioned my son tutors the science, so it has all the science in a smaller binder for him, and it has the assignments to go with that. So because he's my tutor, he doesn't need the great big book, he just has the science book. All right, so the books for them, and I'm just going to again go through this quickly. Oh, I forgot to mention, one thing I did forget to mention is math. So the younger kids, I dropped the DVD, are doing Delta in Math UC. And so here's the test book, their workbook, teacher's guide, and then they have manipulatives, which are awesome. So they have, I'll just hold it up, I don't want to open up these. They have the little manipulatives that they can use with the different blocks so they can actually see what they're doing, see when they multiply stuff, what it looks like, which I've tried with my younger kids, 4 different math curriculums, and we did Math UCs this year, and it just clicked for them. And it has a DVD they can watch that explains it, so I don't have to explain it, and then they do the work. Okay, so for the older kids, for Bible, my table is literally covered with books. Okay, move it back. Okay, so for the older kids, level 100 in Sonlight, we have, this is the Bible section. So again, real books, they do have scripture that they read every day, and we do a prayer journal and then the Why by Missionary books. But some of the books that they're doing for Bible this year are God's Will, God's Best by Josh McDowell, a Bible study sampler. So it has different Bible study sections that they will be doing. Why Pray? And this is from Mission India. That should be interesting. Evidence for Jesus. And then Philip Yancey, the Bible that Jesus read, which I love everything by Philip Yancey. So this is going to be awesome with them for Bible this year. And then for history, the history books that we're doing, my microphone's getting in there, are the Story of Us. So this is what it looks like. All of these. The Story of Us, it goes from the first Americans, making the 13 colonies, from colonies to country, a new nation, liberty for all, war, terrible war, reconstructing America, the age of the extremes, war, peace, and all that jazz. I'm already like getting super excited. And then all the people since 1945. So it talks about important people in history. And this is what the books look like inside. They're like photos and information. And then here's a source book, an index. So it has the definitions of words and all kinds of stuff. So that is the Story of Us that we'll be doing through history. And then let me just move some more books. Okay. Now these are other books that we'll be doing for history. And at this level, so this is high school. This is high school level. A lot of these they'll be reading on their own. but I'm going to be picking some of these to read aloud because I just like it. And again, I like that we have that time together around the table. I think it'll help them with their schooling so they don't get overwhelmed if I read stuff aloud. And I found, even when we started homeschooling Maria when she was a sophomore, she would listen as I read stuff aloud, and her ACT score in language jumped. I just think as you're learning, taking notes, which I do have the older kids take notes when I'm reading out loud, it just helps it get into your brain. So, history books. The Cross and the Switchblade. Now, I remember I was probably 12 or 13 when this movie came out, or at least I remember watching it in a church in Mount Shasta, California. So this is fun that this is a history book. Freedom Walkers. Farewell to Manzanar. Is that how you say that? Manzanar, which it's about Japanese internment camps. So I'm super excited about this. And then I squealed when I pulled this out of the box. World History, or World War II, the rest of the story and how it affects you today. Love this. And then Cameron Townsend, again, a YWAM book, which are our favorite, and we have not read this yet. So I'm excited. See, I'm reading the back, so I need to just focus on this Facebook Live. Moonshiner's Son. The Yanks are coming. What is the Panama Canal? Dragon's Gate. The Shapes of War. This is about Gettysburg, a novel of Gettysburg. Again, I love that they are real novels. I know we learn so much, we remember so much as we're living through these experiences with characters in historical fiction, says the historical fiction writer. Sacagawea. The Great Little Madison. How did a small man with a small voice become the president of the United States? Traitor, a case of Benedict Arnold. We're writing the Constitution. The Landing of the Pilgrims. Before Columbus, which is fun. We got to go see a Mayan ruin last year, so love that. And then the Boys' War. Some Union and Confederate soldiers were as young as 12 or 14 years old, so that's going to be great. So those are the history books. And then these are the read out loud or reader books. So this is actually literature, but it's all the literature, again, is based on the time in history. So all their literature, all their history, everything ties together. And then they have assignments. So they might have write a book report to go with this book, or they will take a part of a section of the book and it'll talk about description, write a descriptive paragraph. So it pulls everything together with the books. Okay, these books. When You Reach Me. Looks like some type of mystery, maybe. Looks good. Wrinkle in Time. Love this. The View from Saturday, which I read one of her other books, the museum one. I forgot the title. But this looks really good. Rules of the Road. And you can see these are contemporary books that they tie in. Dear Mr. Hensley by Beverly Cleary. Now this is a fun one. So it's A Wrinkle in Time, but it's the full book as a coloring book. So I'll probably do this one where people take turns reading along and then they could color while they're reading. But the fun thing is I went ahead and ordered 5 more copies of these so that every kid can have it while we're reading through Rip Van Winkle, and then they can color the pages. Okay, and then Maniac McGee. So we're gonna have so much fun reading these books next year. Keeping Score, a story about faith, life, faith, and America's favorite pastime, baseball. A Year Down Yonder. It's about Mary Alice's childhood summers in Grandma Dowell's sleepy Illinois town have been packed with enough surprises and drama to fill the double bill of any picture show. But now she's 15 and faces a whole year with Grandma, a woman well known for shaking up her neighbors and everyone else. This looks awesome. And to go with it, there's another book, I think by the same author. Oh, here we go. It was right in my other hand. A Long Way from Chicago. So those look good. Bud, Not Buddy, which I heard, I think Sarah McKenzie talked about this on the Read Aloud Revival. So that was exciting. To Kill a Mockingbird. So excited to read this with my older girls. Out of the Dust. And some of these, like this one, I know I have this on Audible, so we could listen to an Audible too. This looks awesome. My Heart Lies South, the story of my Mexican marriage, which, we're Hispanic, so that should be a fun read. Call of the Wild, one of my favorite books I read in high school. Bonanza Girl, Bound for Oregon, which they studied the American Trail or the Oregon Trail last year with Nathan, just as something fun to do. He actually made like a reality Oregon Trail, Choose Your Adventure with them, and just wrote it himself and gave them all characters based on real people and just did this for fun with the kids. So they're going to love that's a book on the Oregon Trail. Elijah of Buxton, Tom Sawyer, They Loved and Laughed, or They Loved to Laugh. Indian Captive, Story of Mary Jensen. That's going to be a great book. And if these books, I better make another pile. These books are going to tip. Amos Fortune Freeman, Children of the Longhouse, Stink Alley, 1614. It's about the Pilgrims. All right, and then A Treasury of Poetry for Young People, and Peace Child, which we read about this in one of the missionary books that had a collection of stories, but we didn't read like the whole book. So that's going to be great. And then for science, they are doing Exploring Creation with Physical Science. Again, all the materials are here in the box. And then safety glasses, which it's exciting experiments when there's safety glasses. And then the last thing is Algebra 1. So again, we're using Matthew C. It has the DVD, the instruction manual, the student book, the test book, and then the manipulatives. So I guess somehow these help you figure out algebra. I don't know. I've never used these before, but it'll be fun to figure out. So that is all the books. And again, how I work is I just look at what books are needed that week for the older kids, what books are needed for the younger kids, and then put them all together and do some read out loud to everybody, and then break people off to do independent work. So we usually start homeschool around 9 or 9:30, and most of the reading and a lot of independent work is done by noon, maybe 12:30, and then the older kids, the algebra and science, are done in the afternoon when Nathan comes over. But if you have any questions, feel free. You just email me at hello, HELLO, at TrishaGoyer.com. And I just am excited about the year. And let me know if you have any questions about Sonlight, because I really, really have fun with it. All right, thanks.